Waiting till it says I'm live. There we go. Good morning, guys. There's nobody here yet, but that's okay because I'm going to read chapter 8 of Breadcrumbs today. We are on chapter 8 called Reasons. Now, last we left off, Jack was being led off into the woods by a tall, thin white witch who we've never met before. Jack was uncomfortable at first with going with her, seeing that he didn't want to leave his friends and family behind and he didn't want them to worry. But ultimately, he decided, as long as they're not going to be concerned, I've got to know. I've got to be there wherever you're going. I'm a little suspicious, but if you have any predictions, put them in the chat. Remember, I can't hear you on this one. Otherwise, I'll just begin. Chapter 8, Reasons. The next morning, Hazel's mother bundled her off to Adelaide's house. She spoke in bright, shiny words as if that might distract Hazel from all thoughts of Jack. It did not work. Hazel kept her eyes on Jack's house as they drove by. There was no sign of life. Maybe Jack was out already. Maybe he'd gone sledding with the boys again. It was Saturday, and Saturday was a good day for sledding. At least it used to be. On the way, her mom chattered on about Adelaide and the Briggses as if there were nothing else Hazel could possibly think about. Apparently, when a hand came down and plucked your best friend from the chair next to you, all you had to do was wait for it to drop someone else in there, and then you could just go on. And they said Hazel was the one who thought too much about magic. So what did you think of Adelaide's uncle? Her mother asked. Hazel shrugged. He's funny. He's a character, all right. He was just like that in college, too. He just never grew up. Some people don't have to. They're lucky. She cast a glance at Hazel. Most people do, though. I like him, Hazel said. They were driving by the lake now, and a group of brightly plumaged girls were emerging from the warming house, carrying skates and chirping to each other. Saturday was also a good day for skating, apparently. Well, good. You think you can have fun today? Sure, Hazel said. Try for me, okay? Okay. Soon they arrived at the Briggses. Today the house shone so brightly it hurt Hazel's eyes, and she wondered if it would even allow her in. If Jack thought she was a baby, what was Adelaide going to think? Adelaide opened the door, smiling. Hazel hesitated. She wanted to keep this moment when Adelaide thought that she was someone she would like to welcome in. But there was nothing to do but enter the house, and Hazel found herself in the vast living room with Adelaide and her little brother Jeremy, who was sitting at a desk poking around at a computer with a screen bigger than Hazel's TV. Mom wants us to watch him, Adelaide explains. Sometimes he breaks things. Hazel didn't know how to respond to that. She didn't know anything about little brothers except from books. She would have liked a brother or a little sister, but her parents had already decided to travel to another planet to get her, and it's hard to do that twice. I break things too, she said finally, and then flushed. This was the part where you were supposed to say something fascinating if you were the sort of person who had fascinating things to say. This was not the part where you say, I break things too. She said, shifting. I liked the story you were working on with your uncle. There, that was something. People liked compliments. Yeah, Adelaide's eyes sparkled underneath her glasses. That was cool. I want to be a writer, too. And a ballet dancer. I'm going to write stories and make ballets about them. Really? Hazel didn't know that was something you could do. Want to do one now? Ballet? Yeah, we could make one about the Snow Queen. Hazel bit her lip. I don't know how to dance. I'll teach you. Come on. In a few minutes, Hazel was wearing one of Adelaide's leotards and ballet slippers and was holding on to the back of a chair while Adelaide moved her feet around in various positions. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Hazel's feet responded slowly, warily, unused to the attention. Then Adelaide stood in front of Hazel, positioned her own feet, stuck her arm in the air like an arc like a swan's neck, and bent her legs so she slowly dropped toward the ground. Wow, said Hazel. It's a plie. You do it on all the positions. It's very good for dramatic moments. Do you want to learn leaps? She did. They pushed all the furniture out of the way, and soon the girls were leaping around the room. Hazel's feet in the soft pink ballet slippers felt borrowed, like she would have to give them back. But she leapt anyway, and while the lamps shook and the decorative furniture quavered, she didn't break a thing. Hazel had feathers, she had wings, she had beautiful borrowed feet. If she could steal beauty from swans, even for a moment, maybe there was some kind of hope. And then there was a mournful noise and a clunking sound, and Adelaide's little brother's head was buried in his arms on the desk. He lifted it up, sighed dramatically, and then clunked it down again. Adelaide stopped. Jer, what is it? He lifted his head enough to say, Addie, you were going to help me with my homework. The girls came to earth. All right, Adelaide said, what's your homework? I'm supposed to write a biography. It has to be a scientist. I can't make anything up, and I can't do Spider-Man. He threw his hands up in despair. A scientist? Adelaide screwed her face up and thought, Albert Einstein? Everyone's gonna do him. I want to be special. Adelaide turned to Hazel. Can you think of anyone? Hazel's heart stirred. Here was her chance. She might not be fascinating, her feet might be wary and slow, but maybe she could at least be useful. That would be something. And then something whispered in one distant corner of her brain, and a picture of Mrs. Jacobs at the overhead flashed behind her eyes. I know, she said, jumping from first to third position. There's a guy, Snowflake something. He was a scientist who took pictures of... No, came a voice from the kitchen. No, no, no. Adelaide and Hazel exchanged a glance. Uncle Martin, Adelaide mouthed. Her uncle burst into the room, emphatically waving a pen. Snowflake Bentley was not a scientist. Who said that? I did, Hazel said in a small voice. He smiled brightly. Oh, hi, Hazel. It's nice to see you. Uncle Martin, Adelaide said, I'm supposed to tell you when you're being weird. But this is a bridge too far. Stop spreading lies. He pointed dramatically at Hazel and then shot her a wink. Wait, Hazel protested. My teacher said, your teacher was wrong. Snowflake Bentley was not a scientist. He was a farmer. He looked at snowflakes under a microscope and realized that they were each unique. Miracles of beauty, he called them. And he thought it was a tragedy that these tiny miracles would disappear. So he figured out how to take pictures of them. He wanted them to live forever. Martin turned dramatically to Jeremy. Snowflake Bentley, look him up on your precious internet, now. The boy turned and started to type, his finger hunting out each letter. Martin went over to him and leaned over his shoulder. Here, when a snowflake melted, he said, the design was forever lost. Just that much beauty was gone. He was no scientist. He was a poet. How's that for your biography, Jeremy? The boy slumped in his chair. I'd rather have Spider-Man. Martin flung his hands in the air. Fine, I'll go where I'm appreciated. Nice to see you, Hazel. He turned toward the kitchen. Wait, Hazel said. Uncle Martin turned and Adelaide looked at Hazel in surprise. Hazel had surprised herself, too. Can I ask you something? The words stuck in her throat. Uncle Martin was the sort of person who understood things. He knew just beyond the boundary of what you could see. Hazel's wings twitched. You may. Hazel shot a glance at Adelaide, who was giving her a curious look. She took a deep breath. Can you think of any reasons someone would change overnight? He tilted his head. Change how? I mean, she said as her heart jumped up in her throat and settled there. They just don't act like themselves anymore? That they were nice and then suddenly they aren't anymore? Martin nodded slowly. So you mean a complete personality change? Yes. And might I guess that you're looking for reasons that aren't natural? She exhaled. She wouldn't have said it out loud. That's right. Well, he rubbed his hands together. Let's see. There are a few options here. Possession is one, maybe not by a demon, but something a little more harmless, like a goblin or an imp. Or a troll, Jeremy exclaimed. Trolls don't possess people, Adelaide said, rolling her eyes at her brother. Or an evil corporate disembodied brain thing, Martin continued. Or there could be some kind of enchantment, by a witch or a wizard. Or by a magical item, something that was given to them, or something they acquired, maybe by accident. Or something that's infected them that causes them to see the world in a skewed way. A poison apple, said Adelaide. A magic potion, said Hazel. Yes, precisely. Or someone could have some kind of magical hold on this person, like spiritual blackmail. Or maybe they're in the process of transforming into something else. A turtle, said Jeremy. He means a werewolf, said Adelaide. Either way, does that help? Martin asked. Hazel nodded, heart pounding. She took a deep breath, looking from Jeremy to Adelaide to Uncle Martin. Do you, she said to the man, her voice quiet, do you believe that these things can happen? Martin nodded thoughtfully. I believe that the world isn't always what we can see, he said. I believe there are secrets in the woods, and I believe that goodness wins out. He gave Hazel a serious look. So if someone's changed overnight by a witch curse or a poison apple or a were-turtle, you have to show them what's good. You show them love. That works a surprising amount of the time, and if that doesn't save them, they're not worth saving. Hazel nodded slowly. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Adelaide nod too, as if this information might be useful to her someday. Did you have fun? Hazel's mother said in the car on the way home. Yeah, Hazel said. Good, me too. Mom? Yeah? Under her seat, she moved her left foot forward so the heel touched the arch of the right. Can I take ballet lessons? Her mom glanced at her. Ballet? She repeated. Adelaide takes ballet. Oh. Her mother's eyes fell closed for a moment. Hazel, baby, she began, and Hazel never would have asked if she'd known how sad her mom would look. I'd love to give you ballet lessons, but they cost money, and she shook her head. Maybe someday, when things are a little better. Hazel gulped and nodded, looking carefully at a spot on the dashboard. I suppose, her mom hesitated. I suppose I could ask your father. Hazel looked up. Really? I can ask, she repeated. Hazel nodded, moving her feet into first position. In her mind, she executed a grand plie. Mom? Yes? Do you think I should do something? About Jack, I mean? Hazel didn't know what that something might be. A letter, a present convincing Joe Mauer to show up on his doorstep? Something. Something that was too good. Her mother's eyes flickered over her. She seemed to start to say something and then stopped. Oh, honey, she said finally. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Hazel's eyes darted to the window. Her heart plummeted and her feathers fell away. She could be such a baby sometimes. Thus concludes Chapter 8 of Breadcrumbs. Things are really heating up with Hazel starting to ask all the right questions and Jack somehow hiding from the answers. Personally, I look forward to seeing what part Adelaide has to play in this story as things go forward and how, if anything, Hazel or anybody's going to find out what happened to Jack. If you have any questions, remember for the author, email them to me or drop them in the chat. And I'll see you tomorrow at 11 for chapters 9 and 10. Tomorrow's going to be a double day since one of those is a shorter chapter. So, until then, have fun, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.